Hey guys, this is Kristi. I am here and we'll be going live on camera here in just a minute, but needed to go live right now or they'd kick us off Facebook for the live. So hang out, please. I'm just getting it started until I can actually literally get in the door. So we're here, we're live. I'll be right back. Uh-oh, hang on. Fixing it, fixing it. Oh, I know the other problem. Sorry. There we go. Hey, everybody. So sorry. We may have bit off more than we could chew today, but that's kind of how the week has been. So, welcome to the True Crime Squad. Katie will be joining in a little bit. We don't live in the same town, so she's on her way home. We got to my place first.
Hello and welcome to CBN News' coverage of the 2024 March 4th.
Wow. Hello. Sorry. My goodness. Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient. You can't hear me? I bet you can now, actually, because I fixed it at the beginning and then it got screwed up. Oh, and Rhonda just dropped off Sandy in my office. I was trying to get her to come in here and she didn't, so Rhonda just came. So she'll be showing up. So welcome, everybody. What an amazing, weird day, week, trial we have been through. So much to talk about and to debrief. So what we want to do tonight is talk about today's sentencing and all that went on. And then we're going to have a special live stream on Monday that is our Daybell debrief. We did this last year after Lori's trial, and we really needed it. We all needed a day or two to kind of process what the fuck just happened, because today was wow. Yeah, his mugshot is not out yet. I want to bring some important moments from the trial back and then ask you all, we're going to ask you to share some important moments for you as well from the trial. We're going to do all that on Monday. We're also going to talk to you about what we're going to do going forward, because we've learned a lot through this trial, and one of the things we've learned is that you all really like live streams. So instead of pre-recording some of our shows and putting them out, we're going to live stream them as we record them. And if you can be there at that time, great. And if you can't, you'll just watch it later. So yeah, we're going to share all of that stuff with you on Monday, because obviously we're not quite ready to share what our plans are there. We're also working on what our next trial to cover is going to be, like the next one coming up, because there's a bunch coming and we're going to cover a bunch. Whew. Yeah, how many do you all know? I'm sure you all know, but you probably, in case you don't, Chad was sentenced to death today. You could sort of say 6 times. All 6 counts in which he qualified for the death penalty, he was given the death penalty. Obviously, they can only kill him once, but that is what happened. It was wild. Oh yeah, you can see the wig, the Fabio wig hanging out in the background there. Yes. Right? Now we have to figure out what to do with the rest of our lives. Right? Trust me, it feels like that. It feels like that for us because we've been on this case for, well, honestly, since shortly after the kids went missing, we started following it. Then we started podcasting, and we started following the trial, the situation itself, and then of course not long after that is when the kids' bodies were found. So yes, we're definitely covering Kohberger. We're going to be talking about Kohberger. Kohberger is in the place in that case that Daybell Vallow was in a couple of years ago, where they're just fighting about little tiny evidentiary things. And the defense is trying to poke holes in absolutely anything they can to keep things from going to trial. And we watched this happen for a couple of years in Lori and Chad's cases. And so I watched a hearing the other day and I'm like, man, this all feels real familiar. So that's where we're going. Yes, Lori's next trial is in August. You found this trial through us. Oh, Rhonda, that's awesome. Oh yes, maybe Robin Lee Rowe. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Robin Lee Rowe. We've talked about her before, but we definitely want to talk about her again. Yeah, we've been following Delphi for a long time. Delphi is extremely complicated, but yes, we intend to cover Delphi to the level that we can because everything, they're not allowing anything in the courtroom, and so that's a real challenge. Uh, uh, Juliet, I get being worried. I do. That there's strategy here about Pryor asking to be taken off the case, and all of the things they just did through the sentencing. I get that. However, um, appeals are uh, rarely successful, and in Idaho, they are very hesitant to overturn juries. So I'm not super worried. But yeah, the celebration of life was really good. It was really nice to see a bunch of our family and to see our cousin and her children and you know oh, Katie's talking. Oh, sorry, Katie's answering questions from her phone in the chat. It was really nice. It was outside, which was so nice. It was beautiful. It was in Brigham City, Utah. It was just gorgeous. The weather was great, and it was so very nice to see Paul's family be able to lay him to rest and really begin the process of grieving that we all go through. It's like we need the ritual to make that happen. Oh, thank you. You know what? This shirt is actually not just a shirt, it's a shorts jumpsuit. It's a shorts all like jumpsuit thing because I wear mostly jumpsuits. And I got it from Target. And I love it. This is my first time wearing it. It's really cute. July 5th is final trial management for Lori. Yes. Um, we can really go pay a lot more attention to what's happening with Lori. We're going to do that most definitely. Uh, yeah, that's the multitasking. Well, Katie's not driving, just so you know. Her daughter's driving, so we're okay. Yes, right, Jamie. See, I agree that Jamie says I was impressed by Judge Boyce. He crossed T's and dotted I's that should shorten appeals. He did. He very frequently asked Chad Daybell on the record, are you I need you to confirm that this is the choice that you are making to keep Mr. Pryor as your attorney, that this is what you want because this is your choice and these are your rights. And he did confirm it over and over and over again. So, you're going to follow Lori's Arizona trial and then Donna Edelson. Oh, we'll definitely be following Donna Edelson, or Adelson. Oh my gosh, that is talk about a belligerent turd circus, right? Yeah. Right, I hope Judge Boyce gets a vacation too, but I doubt it. He's probably got other cases that are about to go to trial. That's just how it happens. Right. Chad chose his own lawyer. But because he did that, he missed out on a team at public expense. He did. That was a conscious choice that he made himself. And ultimately, he knew the choice that he was making, and Boyce did make sure that he knew that. So I'm not that worried, honestly. They're gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do. Honestly, going forward, right? He waived mitigation. He waived commenting. He waived jury polling. Yeah, he may waive his appeals too. I mean, the initial appeal, like we talked about last night, is an appeal to the Idaho Supreme Court to make sure that the death penalty sentence was given appropriately. After that, he has to ask for appeals from there. And he will receive an appellate attorney. It will not be John Pryor. It will be an appellate attorney that is a public defender. So we'll see kind of how that goes. That should be interesting because one of the things that I have been really struck by throughout this case is the way that John Pryor identifies with Chad on a personal level. That I think has been not good, honestly. Will it stop anything from things going forward? I don't think so, but I don't know. We need somebody that doesn't have that connection. right? Oh, they gave Pryor a chance to pick a death penalty attorney. Pryor had a year, you guys, to find an attorney that would come forward, that would work with him, who was death penalty certified, so that they could get paid as public defenders. A year. And you know who one of those attorneys was, and that was Terry Ratliff. We know what happened with Terry Ratliff, the guy who tried to intervene, and we learned in that hearing um, that uh, he and John Pryor had discussed this case. So he was one of the attorneys Pryor tried to talk to, but Pryor, nobody agreed with his strategy. But here's the thing that you got to remember that's really, really important is these defense attorneys can only do what their client wants them to do. The client is still in charge of their defense. It's why Lori didn't have a defense, because she refused to participate in creating a defense. Just like Chad refused to have his mitigation. I have no doubt that there is a mitigation report and that there were mitigation witnesses planned. You could see it on all of their faces yesterday that this is not what the plan was. Yeah, no more. Well, so Pryor will stay on for the next couple of months. There's a real short window where they have to file their first appeal. And I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is on it, where it's now a death penalty case. But he will stay on until someone else is appointed and will take over for him. Oh yeah, Pryor was furious with Chad the last couple of days, no doubt. The way they were sitting today, they were practically sitting with their backs to each other, almost. And you could see things have gone wrong. Right? That is why Sarah Boone has gone through so many lawyers. Because her lawyers are all like, "You're insane. Here's what we got to do to defend you," and she won't do it. Yeah. 42 days. There it is. Yeah. So usually with Lori, Archibald filed that appeal initially, and then it was turned over to whoever. It was, I can't remember the name of her appellate attorney, but it was turned over to that appellate attorney. So we may see something similar here, unless Chad really plans to not appeal. A lot of us have been wondering, is this going to be his way of being a martyr for his cause? A martyr for his children? I don't know if he'll really hold that up, because I mean, these are death penalties. A death penalty sentence still is a long time away, so he's got a lot of time to think about it. He's got a lot of time to change his mind. Journey to Justice says, Chad said, "Don't look at me, Pryor." Oh, dang it. My chat jumped. Give me a second. That was funny. Don't look at me, Pryor. You piece of shit. You are now dark. Yeah. Well, Pryor was very angry with him. You could tell that what happened yesterday is not what Pryor wanted to happen. Has Chad ever been mentally evaluated? To our knowledge, no. They've never attempted any kind of mental health defense, nor has there been any question about him being fit. So. I know. Well, it was obvious yesterday that Pryor was unprepared for his opening and closing. Maybe his opening he was a little more prepared. It was still real weird. They just weren't ready. He wasn't ready because he didn't think that he would be doing it that day. Do we think his kids refused to stand for him at the end? It's possible. It's possible that some of his mitigation witnesses said, "Yeah, we've been watching this trial and we're not standing up for you anymore." It's entirely possible. We don't know. Yeah. Yeah, they have been facing away from each other more and more. Chad is much more calculated than Lori. It is true. And so it's possible that he has some kind of strategy to all this. It certainly is. Why we still really think that him being convicted of Tammy's murder may be what changed all of this, because he was trying to convince all of his children of his innocence. And now that that's gone, he's done trying. I don't know. Right? If Chad had not waived his right to speedy trial, they would have gone to trial together. And wouldn't it have been different? Don't you think? What do you think would have been different? Right? Why did Boyce give a scathing opinion with Lori but not for Chad? Well, first of all, Chad didn't speak. And that scathing statement from Boyce came to Lori after she spoke and Chad didn't. And I have to go back and listen to it because, of course, we were at a memorial and I was watching it on captions. But I think that the judge sort of made a reference to, I don't really have anything else to say that the jury has not already said. Kind of like, you're not worth my time, buddy. And we're going to watch that and talk about it because I think that will help us. Right? Pryor was writing, going through paperwork while he read the death penalty sentence. Yeah, the judge gave Lori's sentence, right. And the judge was just passing along the sentence. So it was a different kind of hearing. And I do think maybe that was part of it. What did you all think at the end of the second hearing today where he was sentenced for the fraud charges and how he wouldn't stand up for the jury when they were left? I couldn't decide. Was he just being obstinate or did he try to stand and couldn't do it and fell back in his chair? It was difficult to say. Yes, the jury, yeah, that's the whole point of the penalty phase is that the jury determined the sentence here because the jury has to determine whether or not he gets the death penalty. So the jury sentenced him. Amanda says, I have to be honest, I wonder if he gave Chad an easier out. I don't know. You said he's kind of easier on male sex offenders, and I just got an icky vibe, to be honest. He has been, unfortunately, quite easy on male sex offenders, but I didn't get that vibe. I got the vibe that Judge Boyce was so done with this situation, and that the jury was so done that he just wanted to get them all out of there. I don't know. Do you think he was shackled down? It's possible. He's a convicted triple murderer now. But yeah, he did stand another time. I know. It was hard to decide what happened. And I was looking at it on my phone, which made it even harder. Did they really turn their backs to the jury? I'm not sure if Pryor did, but Chad definitely did. And then didn't stand up. Right? Grant says, Chad, off the chart narcissist with sociopathic tendencies. I think he's a psychopath, honestly. Sociopath is a term that's not used as much anymore. I have a good friend who is a psychologist, and I talked to her about this a little bit. And they've really kind of come to believe that actually sociopaths are psychopaths. Just it manifests a little bit differently. But definitely, he doesn't appear to experience emotions like most people do. We've watched that over and over and over again. Did they both? Okay. My 2 cents says they both did. Okay. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There's no need to be nice anymore. They didn't get their way with the jury. So, and not that Pryor ever was particularly nice, but, no need for niceties at this point. Will he file a request for a new trial like Lori? I don't know if he will. I mean, he can file an appeal just like Lori's team did. And I would imagine that was a plan in the works already. But now? Right. And will the insurance companies take the house? And that is I'm not sure. It's no longer in that family's name. So I don't know if they can undo that. That's something I will know more about on Monday. I haven't had a chance to learn exactly what the deal is. If there's any way they can come back on any of Chad's property. Right, yeah. Sometimes Pryor was smarmy, low on the nice scale, but not mean, yes. And in the last 2 days, he just got mean. Let's see. Sociopath is not worse than psychopath. Psychopaths are people who kill. Sociopaths don't necessarily kill. They're very manipulative, but they don't necessarily murder people. Psychopaths literally do not see other people as having value. Let's see. Right. I know it sucks a lot for the families that, there are going to, if there are appeals, they will last for a long time. Because of death penalty. There's a lot of appeals allowed for that. Please take a minute to like the live. Thank you all so very much for being here. My 2 cents, thank you so much for the tip. The super chat is on. I don't know about you guys. I am exhausted. This has been an insane week. I never guessed that this was going to end this way with all of this happening so quickly. I don't think anyone did. Yeah, I know there's been some of the behavior and body language analysts doing some really great work. That's one of the things that I love about the podcasting community is that there are so many people with so many different expertise and angles to help us understand things. Because I got to tell you, absolutely nobody can do it all in any way. My 2 cents, I think there will only be one appeal. See, that first appeal is to the Supreme Court, and it's automatic. They don't have to do anything. It was triggered by the sentence today. Chad will most likely die in prison before his execution date. It's possible, but guys, we've got people that have been on death row since the late 70s, early 80s, who are still alive on Idaho's death row. Who else owns Chad's property? We believe it's a mortgage company. My sense of this is the prior needed to pull some cash out of that house, and that's what he did. Wonder if Pryor will use the hostile real estate agent to sell the property. I'm gonna bet that Ronnie Arnold is not gonna be interested in taking that sale. That cracks me up. Ronnie was a hero in all this. We saw Ronnie's ex-wife, our cousin, last weekend while we were camping, and we were talking about this and about how funny that was. And she talked about how that is very much Ronnie's personality, and that, that she wasn't surprised at all that he threw that back in Pryor's face. There are some who have waived death penalty appeals, and they were executed within a year of sentence. That has not happened in Idaho, not in a real long time. Maybe in other states. Idaho is slow to execute, guys. They just are. Even if there's no appeals pending, they're slow to execute. I want to believe it's because maybe people are starting to think that the death penalty might not be the way to go, personally. Yeah, the Night Stalker, Rich Ramirez, sat on death row a long time. Property for sale, raccoons included in the price. Yeah, I mean, we're going to keep a close eye on what's going on with the house. We have a lot of different connections to know about that. And it will be very interesting to see what does happen. Because, we kind of all want to, I don't know. I guess we all have an opinion, maybe whether we have the right to or not. Right, Juliet? Juliet says, I don't care if Chad dies before execution. What's important is Chad will wake up every day with that over his head. Exactly. That's what matters. He will never get out. He will never be able to hurt anybody else. And I hope eventually that his children can heal from this, and that his mother's family can heal from this particularly. You think Koberger is facing the death penalty? Yeah, I believe he is. Yeah, we've only executed 3 since the death penalty was reinstated in the late 70s. 3, guys. That's not much. Yeah, right. My 2 cents says, I absolutely believe in the death penalty, but we need to revamp it here in Idaho. We need to revamp it all over the country, because the problems that Idaho is having with the death penalty, all other death penalty states are also having. Big problems. around getting the medication that they use, trying alternative options, and then there's just the reality of, you're looking at a solid 20 years before you get executed in most situations. Yeah, maybe Pryor thought he could get Chad to plead, so he would have made quite a profit. I know that there were a lot of conversations. We have it on good authority that there were conversations about that, but his expectations were so ridiculous. Things like time served or 20 years with the possibility of parole, that kind of shit, that the prosecutor couldn't accept it. And they're not going to, they slam dunked Lori's case, and so they knew they were going to slam dunk this one too. They weren't going to take much off the table other than the death penalty. 2017 was the last death penalty sentence. Yeah. 2012 was the last the actual execution here in Idaho, other than the attempt of Thomas Creech earlier this spring that was unsuccessful. Right. Yes, Flash fan. The reason that the bill was presented and approved in Idaho to reinstate the firing squad was specifically aimed at Brian Koberger. But as we've talked about, they need several $1 million to build a facility, train people, put things together for that. It may never happen because the Department of Corrections was not even consulted on that bill. Do you think Chad's sentence has made a precedent in all the doomsday theories, leading the 144,000 casting out nonsense? I don't know, because the Mormon Church did something today that I thought was extremely tone deaf, and why firing squad for him? Because this particular legislator wanted him to get the firing squad since we're having trouble doing lethal injection. So today in Rexburg, sort of between Rexburg and Sugar City, Salem area, right where this all happened, just down the road on the same highway, the Mormon Church broke ground on a second Mormon temple in Rexburg. It is 3.5 miles from the other one. And first of all, a lot of people in this community are not happy about getting a second one, because we have a temple here in Idaho Falls where I live. 25 miles away in Rexburg, they have one. Now they're going to have two. So now they dedicated that. And you know what they did? Well, a couple of things they did. First of all, they talked about the Teton Dam break that happened in 1976. It was June 5th of 1976. I was 6 months old at the time. And that was a huge flood that happened through that whole area. 11 people were killed. What did I read? 116,000 livestock. And it was a cost of around $2 billion in property damage. It was a huge tragedy that happened. And today, the Mormon Church said at that groundbreaking that flood happened to cleanse the land for the building of this temple. Guys, I'm 48 years old, and I was 6 months old when that happened 47 years ago. Like, what? Or 48 years ago, whatever it was. Anyway, really gross, very tone deaf, and definitely feeds the fire, I think, of this area becoming a new hub for the Mormon Church. They've got 16 acres out there, and there are rumors that they're going to build an MTC, which is a Mormon Training Center. Hey, Katie. There you are.
Here I come to say
So glad you are here.
My dogs are really partying though, because we've been gone all day. So if you hear about
yes, it was a local church leader who said that, and it was really gross. It was wrong. It was so thoughtless to people who lost their homes and family members and everything to that flood, because there are plenty of people here who did experience it personally. It was really, really inappropriate. But
Yeah.
also, I mean, does it make some of what Chad said appear true? It kind of does, and that is weird and fucked up. I don't even
Don't
know
say
if
it.
they were aware. Yeah, Brandon, the LDS Church tone deaf? You don't say. Yeah. No, I know it was
Yeah.
wild, but the fact that it happened today, on the day that Chad gets the death penalty for preaching
Yeah.
this crazy shit and using it as an excuse to murder three people, and
And
that
then
was
this guy
done
gets
in
up
this
here and
like
says that.
just a few miles from his house. Really weird, you guys. It was
Hmm.
creepy. Super,
It's,
super creepy.
and I'm sure that that temple dedication was planned well in advance, but still,
But
it's a big ick.
to use it to justify the flood, for one, is so gross for anybody who went through it. I can't imagine how people must feel about that.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, the temple dedication was live on East Idaho News right after their press conference for, yeah. That's the ick we have with East Idaho News, guys, is that they heavily cover Mormon stuff like this. And a lot of times it's really not like news. It's very
Hmm.
niche. And I saw a comment on that on their video that said, "Ooh, this feels like more like propaganda than news. Disappointing." And there are comments like that on their channel a lot
Hmm.
for that reason. So
Yeah.
we love Nate. We love the work that they've done on the Daybell Vallow case, but we always take it with a little grain of salt because we do
Hmm.
know what their influence is.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's exactly it, Ellie. Someone else had asked if you could expand on that, and that's exactly it. Ellie said it's
Hmm.
interesting that they are creating a hub in Idaho. Right, Rexburg is becoming their new hub.
Right.
They're out of room in Salt Lake. They can't really
Yeah.
expand any further. Salt Lake is
No.
absolutely jam packed, and so here's Rexburg getting filled up, and that's fine. That's whatever. But yeah, that comment today
This
was
incredible
off-putting as
product
hell.
dissolves oven.
Yeah, it was. It was really
Yeah.
off-putting. Katie, will you talk to the chat for a minute? I'm going to mute myself so that I can pull up our live stream of the sentencing today so that we can watch it together. But
Yeah,
it's going to mean me
definitely.
playing it, so I'm going to mute myself so you guys can't hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, it was definitely a weird day for us, literally watching on our phones. And even once we got to that service, luckily it was an outside, kind of a thing. But yeah, just watching the death penalty sentencing had happened just as we pulled up. So that was done. Then, of course, there was that break. So, we kind of had a moment. But yeah, what a weird void kind of a day here where, we really thought this trial would last for at least another week, and it just didn't. And I've seen many uh, attorneys on Twitter and on YouTube saying they are absolutely flabbergasted about the waiving of mitigation. And defense attorneys that have been defense attorneys for 20 years or more saying, I have literally never seen that happen ever, not a single time. And yet, here it is. I guess, Chad had to break the mold in a lot of different ways. I guess he wanted to do it just one more time. Yeah, well, Flash, hopefully our next trial is something that you're interested in. Yeah. We're not going to hit another trial probably for a week or two. We're just going to feel it out and decide what seems right up our alley, and we'll jump on something else. But in the meantime, though, we'll still have lots of lives and lots of stories coming at you because that's what we do. I was going to share one thing that my 2 cents said to us. She texted us when the sentencing happened, or when the jury came back and said that Lori just killed her fifth husband.
Oh my god. Right. Holy
That
hell.
flattened me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I am ready to uh, add the sentencing to the screen so that we can watch it together and then talk about it afterwards. So
Sounds good.
the first sentencing, and then we can do the second one.
Yeah. Okay.
In effect, I'd appreciate everyone complying with that as you all have throughout this trial. I will note on the record before we get to the verdict that we did have a jury question yesterday that the court answered, and I've provided the question and copies of the answer to counsel. In addition, a second question came in today. I did go on the record with that question and answer with counsel and the defendant present, returned that response to the jurors. They've now reached a verdict in the case, so the court is going to have the jurors brought in and have the verdict delivered for reading. To the court, I'll review that. Ladies and gentlemen, the verdict form is somewhat long and complicated. The court is going to take a moment to review the form. I do find it's been properly filled out by the jury foreperson as well as correctly signed and dated. At this time, I am going to request, Madam Clerk, Ms. Holstein, if you would please read the special verdict form. If you'd like to remain seated or standing, it's a long form and will take some time to read, but however is most comfortable for you, Madam Clerk, you may go ahead and read the special verdict form into the record.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho Plaintiff versus Chad Guy Daybell Defendant, case number CR 22211623, Special Verdict. Part 1. We, the jury, render the following verdict on the alleged statutory aggravating circumstances. 1. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tylee Ryan was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes. 2. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Joshua Jackson, hereinafter J.J. Vallow, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes. 3. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tamra, hereinafter Tammy Daybell, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration? Yes. 4. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tylee Ryan was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity? Yes. 5. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity? Yes. 6. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The murder of Tammy Daybell was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity? Yes. 7. Has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? By the murders or circumstances surrounding their commission, The defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. Yes. 8, has the jury unanimously found that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following aggravating circumstance? The defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murders at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. Yes. If you answered no to each of the above questions, you do not need to answer any other questions. Simply have the presiding juror sign this verdict form and notify the bailiff that you are done. If you answered yes to any of the above questions, then please answer the questions in part 2. Part 2. We, the jury, render the following verdict on the weighing of all mitigating circumstances against the statutory aggravating circumstances. You are to only answer the following questions for those statutory aggravating circumstances for which you answered yes in part 1. 1, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tylee Ryan was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 2, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Joshua Jackson, hereinafter J.J. Vallow, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 3, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tamara, hereinafter Tammy Daybell, was committed for remuneration, or the defendant employed another to commit the murder for remuneration or the promise of remuneration, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 4, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tylee Ryan was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 5, with respect to
Did we lose the mic?
It's back. 5, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances.
Do we need a new mic? Okay, we're going to get a separate mic. Thank you.
I'll read 5 over.
Yes, start with 5 again. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
5. Okay. With respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of J.J. Vallow was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 6, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the murder of Tammy Daybell was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity, we unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 7, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that by the murders or circumstances surrounding their commission, the defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life, We unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. 8, with respect to the statutory aggravating circumstance that the defendant, by his conduct, whether such conduct was before, during, or after the commission of the murders at hand, has exhibited a propensity to commit murder, which will probably constitute a continuing threat to society. We unanimously find that when weighed against this aggravating circumstance, all mitigating circumstances are not sufficiently compelling to make imposition of the death penalty unjust. Once you have completed part 2, please have the presiding juror sign this verdict form and notify the bail if you are done. Dated this first day of June 2024 and signed by the presiding juror.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Clerk, for reading through the verdict form. Ladies and gentlemen, the court will note that given the complexity of this special verdict form, just I think in fairness to all those in attendance, including in particular victims and the parties, the layman's explanation of this verdict is that the jury has made a finding that it would be appropriate to impose the death penalty as it relates to counts 1 through 6 in the amended indictment. And so pursuant to Idaho Code 192515, the court is directed that the defendant would be sentenced to death on those counts. The court will take up a concluding sentencing proceeding. I also have additional counts of insurance fraud I've discussed with counsel. Moving forward in a consolidated hearing, the court's proposing that we do that this morning, waiving the right to a pre-sentence investigation report under Criminal Rule 32A. Before I get there, just let me ask at this time of the jurors, is this your true and correct verdict that's been rendered in this case? Very well. Does the state wish to have the jury pulled on the special verdict form?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Does the defense wish to have the jury pulled on this special verdict form?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Very well. As I mentioned, then that's the result of the verdict form. The court would then proceed with additional sentencing on those 2 counts, as well as the counts 1 through 6 determined now by the jury. Mr. Pryor, is the defense willing to move forward with a consolidated hearing on those counts this morning without a pre-sentence investigation report?
As previously indicated, Judge, yes, we are.
Okay. Is the state going to be ready to proceed with a sentencing on those issues as well?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Counsel, I do want to take a brief recess just to briefly prepare for that, given the verdict, and I will come back on the bench. It really won't take long. I would suggest that a 30-minute recess will come back on the record. The court will conclude with that sentencing hearing. So if everybody could be back here by 10 after, we'll have the jury return one last time to the jury room to wait for that final sentencing hearing. We'll conduct that in the presence of the jurors also, and then I'll have concluding instructions for the jurors. So we will be in recess for 30 minutes. We'll come back for that final stage of the proceeding. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. That was
Muted.
some of the most confusing legalese.
And
I
you see
have
that last
ever
little
heard.
bit where Pryor whispered into Chad's ear?
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm a really good lip reader. And what I saw him say was,
Oh boy, here we go.
"You're an idiot and I fucking hate you." That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
I think it is, because at this point, they do not look like friends, maybe not even acquaintances.
I'm guessing that Pryor was sitting there thinking, I hope this is the last day of my
defendant
life. I have to look at your
on-
fucking face. I'll bet it is. The way he blew up mitigation, the amount of time and money he has wasted on Pryor's behalf is just unfathomable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did hear that one juror cried during the sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
I do not envy them at all, because they had to determine whether or not the state will take his life or not, and that is not an easy decision. I don't think that's an easy decision for anybody.
Yeah, that's a
As much
huge
as
decision.
the hideous things that he did, you have on your own conscience for the rest of your life that you voted yes to take somebody's life, and I think that's a heavy, heavy thing.
Yeah.
And they
Well, I can.
obviously really took the time to be sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, they did. We owe them a huge debt. Their services, Jesus.
Yeah.
I hope they all got to go home tonight, spend time with loved ones, think not at all about this freaking case, and just do something happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get a break. I hope they don't all have to go back to work on Monday
All right.
after this. My God.
Yeah. Oh, Terry, I was totally making that up. Yeah. No.
Katie's rather famous for being very convincing and also lying her ass off. Just so you know.
Only for fun, like not for evil, But
Yeah, definitely. So then we hear the rest of the sentencing, because of course the jury chose the sentence for the murder and conspiracy to commit murder charges, and then the judge has to give him the sentence for the fraud charges. So let's go ahead and listen to that, and then we can chat some more about it.
The counts in the amended indictment, including the insurance fraud counts. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very well, Mr. Bailiff, if you'd please have the jurors brought in.
Yes, Your Honor.
That pursuant to Idaho Code 18-4004, which is the punishment for murder statute in Idaho, that crime in murder of the first degree can be punished by death. And under Idaho Code 19-2515 subsection 7A, that states that if the jury finds that a statutory aggravating circumstance exists and no mitigating circumstances exist, which would make the imposition of the death penalty unjust, the defendant will be sentenced to death by the court. The court's reviewed the findings of the jurors in the special verdict form. They've taken their time through these deliberations to return that verdict. And so the court will proceed with sentencing first on counts 1 through 6. And again, this is an unusual hearing because the sentencing hearing's already been taking place. We've heard from the victims through impact statements and arguments from counsel. That's already taken place. In addition, a pre-sentence investigation report is not to be ordered in these hearings, so the court does not reference that. The court then orders as follows, and this will be contained in the court's judgment at the conclusion of the case. As to count 1, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the murder of Tylee Ryan, upon the jury's finding of guilty and return of the special verdict form, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court, therefore, on count 1, the defendant is sentenced to death. On count 2, the first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances when weighed against the mitigating circumstances do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 2, sentences the defendant to death. On count 3, the conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the murder of J.J. Vallow, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances, when weighed against the mitigating circumstances, do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 3, sentences the defendant to death. On count 4, first-degree murder of J.J. Vallow, the jury finding beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances, when weighed against the mitigating circumstances, do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 4, sentences the defendant to death. On count 5, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell, the jury, having found beyond a reasonable doubt and having returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances, when weighed against the mitigating circumstances, do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 5, sentences the defendant to death. On count 6, the first-degree murder charge, the murder of Tammy Daybell, the jury, having found beyond a reasonable doubt and returned the special verdict that the aggravating circumstances, when weighed against the mitigating circumstances, do not make the imposition of the death penalty unjust. The court therefore, on count 6, sentences the defendant to death. The court's next going to take up counts 7 and 9 on the insurance fraud counts. Before I do that, from the state, are there any questions regarding the court's judgment as it relates to counts 1 through 6?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Questions from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, moving on to insurance fraud, then the court will note that I am required to go through a sentencing proceeding on this. These are separate counts that have not been determined in the special verdict form by the jurors. Some brief procedural history. Mr. Daybell was charged by amended indictment with counts 7 and 9 insurance fraud under Idaho Code 41293, which is a felony. Mr. Daybell pled not guilty to those counts on June 9th, 2021. Thereafter, this trial was held, and as part of the findings of the jury in their verdict, they did find the defendant guilty of both of those counts. The court has considered, in lieu of a pre-sentence investigation report, the information that I've heard throughout this trial. I also heard information regarding these charges in the previous trial held last year against co-defendant Lori Vallow. I've also heard information received during the special sentencing proceeding relating to those counts as well, and have considered that information in lieu of a pre-sentence investigation report. And I'll also note the defendant waived the pre-sentence investigation report and is permitted to do that, and the court can allow that under Criminal Rule 32A. At this time then, before I move forward with the sentencing on counts 7 and 9, I will inquire of the state, is the state wishing to make any sentencing recommendation as it relates to count 7 or 9?
And Your Honor, just for clarification, were the insurance frauds count 8 and 9?
As listed in the amended indictment, they are listed as count 7 and count 9.
Thank you. Co-counsel just clarified for me on that. Your Honor, the state is prepared to make a statement. First, I would indicate for the record that in relation to the sentencing hearing, the sentencing portion handled yesterday, the state did make our best attempts to reach out to all statutory victims to allow them the opportunity to be heard by the court. And those that the court heard from yesterday were the ones that had wished to make impact statements. While not directly related to the insurance fraud, I did just want to make a clear record of that. In relation to the insurance fraud charges, in light of the sentence that has been imposed by this court and by the recommendation of the jury in relation to the other charges, the state would indicate we think that the victim statements covered everything the state could say while the insurance charges again are attenuated to it, we've lost 3 individuals that the state can do nothing to bring them back. And so the best we can do is move forward in seeking justice on their behalves. In relation to the insurance counts themselves, given the sentences, we would recommend this court impose jail time and have that, or prison time, impose a sentence and run it concurrent with the imposition of the other sentence by this court. I believe they carry up to 15 years in prison. We'd recommend they run concurrent with each other and with the imposition of death in this case. We would also recommend restitution in the amount of $130,000 to LifeMap and $300,000 to Primerica. As part of that, we would also recommend a waiver of any fines or court costs in this matter in order to allow restitution to be paid if any money is available to go towards that.
All right, thank you for the state's sentencing recommendations. Mr. Pryor, does the defense wish to make sentencing recommendations as to, I'll do them collectively, counts 7 and 9, the insurance fraud counts?
No, Judge, there's nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, is there any objection to the requested restitution amounts of $130,000 and $300,000?
Judge, we may need to set that out at this point, but I'll let the court know if that changes.
All right, I'll permit 30 days for the scheduling of a contested hearing on restitution. If that becomes an issue, we could conduct that hearing most likely remotely on a Zoom hearing if it becomes an issue. At this time, I will ask, because I need to on these counts, before I impose any sentence, Mr. Daybell, you do have the right of allocution, which permits you to make a statement on your own behalf in any mitigation of these offenses. Is there any statement you would like to make before I proceed with sentencing on those counts?
No.
Very well. The court then, having considered the information previously referenced, finds that pursuant to Idaho Code 41293, which under subsection 4 indicates a penalty of up to 15 years of prison. On each of those 2 counts, the court is going to impose a prison sentence of 15 years. So a 15-year sentence will be imposed on count 7. The court will take under advisement the issue of restitution requested by the state. The court will not impose any fines. The court also will impose a 15-year prison sentence on count 9. Also pursuant to the same statute, take under advisement the issue of restitution. The court will note in imposing these prison sentences that I have reviewed Idaho Code 192521, which requires me to go through certain criteria about the imposition of a prison sentence versus a possibility of parole or a lesser sentence. And I would note that the rationale for the prison sentences is that these are intertwined with the murder charges for which the death penalty has been imposed on those counts. And when the court looks at the sentencing factors under 1925-21, I would note in mitigation that Mr. Daybell has been incarcerated an extensively long time in local jail and has a previous law-abiding history, and I have considered that. I've also considered that he's always conducted himself respectfully, from what I've heard from all of the jailers that have ever interacted with him over the years that he's been incarcerated for these charges. However, the court finds under Idaho Code 2521 also that any lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness of these offenses, because this life insurance was obtained based on the murders of individuals and procuring life insurance payouts unlawfully. And because of that, it's the most serious offense, that circumstance that could lead to that. In addition, imprisonment will provide an appropriate punishment and deterrent for the defendant and others, and will also be a deterrent for the community as well. So the court, having then concluded with the sentencing on that, I will not order any fines, because the defendant's previously been deemed indigent and has received the death penalty on these murder counts and find it would be futile to have an order of fines in the case. So with those remarks, then the court typically would address the defendant further, but in the special sentencing proceeding, the victim impact statements and the evidence has already demonstrated on the record, I think, the seriousness of what's occurred. And I don't find any reason to further delve into the court's rationale other than what was listed in the statute. So unless there's anything further, that will conclude the sentencing, but I'll address the post-conviction issues that need to be addressed at this time. Does the state have anything further then on the sentence and count 7 and count 9?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Daybell, in this case, given the sentence that was imposed in counts 1 through 6, there's a special appellate and post-conviction procedure for capital cases, and an automatic stay may be in effect. There's a statute that's Idaho Code 192719 that sets out certain deadlines. I am providing you and counsel with a courtesy copy of that statute, but I will note a few of the deadlines that are listed in there. Under subsection 1, when the punishment of death is imposed, the time for filing an appeal shall begin to run when the death warrant is filed. Number 2, the death warrant shall not be filed until 42 days after the judgment imposing the death sentence has been filed. Number 3, within 42 days of the filing of the judgment imposing the punishment of death, the defendant must file any legal or factual challenges to the sentence of conviction. There's other important and critical deadlines that are contained within that statute, and I am going to provide a copy of that to Mr. Pryor to ensure that the defense is well advised of those post-conviction rights that would apply in this special proceeding. I'll also note that there's an additional rule, Idaho criminal rule. If you'll give me a moment, I think it's 44.2. Criminal Rule 44.2, and that's the mandatory appointment of counsel for post-conviction review after imposition of the death penalty. That rule is also applicable in your case, and a copy of the rule itself is going to be provided to you and counsel to ensure that you're well aware of any post-conviction rights you may have. With that, then, the court is going to conclude the special sentencing proceeding. Is there anything further I need to take up from the state?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your abiding by the court's courtroom conduct order. We'll be in recess.
All right. Thank you all.
Now it is time for the last word with my friend Lawrence O.
There we go. Whew, okay.
I think Chad was shackled. He looked
You?
to me like he couldn't stand up. He was
Well,
sitting there
that's what
waiting
I
like they
wondered.
were waiting to unshackle him so he could get up.
Maybe they were. Pryor was talking to the bailiff, and I wasn't sure what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were definitely had their backs to the jury at the end there. But it seems so silly to have to even deal with those fraud charges after
Yeah.
he's just been sentenced to death for triple murder, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They do have to deal with it. And we're going to figure out what happens with the money, with the life insurance now that he's been convicted of fraud and all of that. We'll figure that out and be able to talk about that more on Monday. We just haven't had a chance to look into it yet.
Yep. So Private Eyes says that the bailiffs asked him to not stand out of it for his own safety.
Oh,
Interesting.
Afraid somebody would come tackle him. I mean, it's happened before in other cases.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were very respectful. No one yelled anything at him at the end. I've seen that happen in other cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm sure that they meet with the jury privately to dismiss them and give them instructions and stuff. I felt like Boyce just wanted this to be over and get the hell out of there and let everybody, including the jury, get the hell out of there. So he really didn't prolong it. You know, you got to remember with Lori's, she spoke. She gave that batshit crazy statement that we said that we played for you yesterday. And after that is when the judge really admonished her. Chad didn't say anything but no. All he said all along into the microphone is no.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, here we are.
Yeah.
At the end of these Idaho trials. What a weird feeling.
Yeah.
We have literally been on this case since the inception of our podcast, of this podcast. We've had others, but of this one. And, wow. It's a weird feeling. I can't even quite, I don't quite have my head around it yet, I don't think.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I know we've been on it for so long. Of course, I mean, we still have 2 trials with Lori, and who knows with Chad, you know, over the years, who knows? I suspect we're not done with him at all, but we are for now, which is definitely interesting. Boyce has done a stellar job. I agree. I feel like he's done the very best he could with this and has been very, very careful and protected the case in every way that he could. Yeah.
Just wild. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm sure it was surreal for him too, you know.
Yeah.
Issuing that sentence of death thanks to the jury's recommendation. And, you know, I'm sure it was surreal for him too.
I don't know that he has ever done that before.
He's a fairly new judge. I don't believe he has.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think Pryor will do with the house/land? I still think that Chad's kids are going to just try and buy it back from him, and that was the plan all along.
Could be.
But who knows? You know, when they transferred that house to him, it wasn't worth nearly as much as it is now because of what real estate around here has done. So that's kind of an interesting
it's definitely gained
thought too, because that house is worth like $400,000 now, and it was only worth about $200,000 back when they bought it. Well, they bought it in 2015. I want to say they paid $225,000. It was probably still worth that around in 2019, and then of course, you know, real estate just went completely bananas, and it's worth over $400,000 now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Did the judge not order Chad to not profit from his crime? Son of Sam laws do that. That's already a thing. He can't profit from his crime.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Several of you are saying that this case is how you were originally introduced to us, and I know some of you that was 4.5 years ago, and some of you that was last week. So we really appreciate all of you being here, and we want you to know that this isn't all we do. And that we
not even
cover
close.
Other trials and cover other cases. This has been our main case for all of this time, and will continue to be till Lori's trials are done. But we're going to cover lots of other stuff. We have over in our Discord, we do have a channel for trial suggestions. What trials do you want to see us cover? One of the things that you like is about how specific we get about information and detailed, and we do that in everything that we can possibly do. So it won't be much different, really. So come join us over on truecrimesquad.com. There's a link there to join our Discord, and then come tell us what trials are coming up that you'd like to see us cover, because we're just going to keep on doing what we do.
Oh yeah, Amber, we'll still have Wednesday night lives. Actually, we're going to have lives, we think 3 times a week. We're working out the details, but we're still going to be having quite a lot of lives. Yeah.
You know, and unless we're live streaming a trial, and then we'll go back to like the everyday kind of schedule periodically here and there.
Yeah. Oh, Brandon, we would love it. Oh, let's see. I had a couple of things to share. A dear friend of mine, who is a dear friend of Heather Daybell's, sent me her statement that she posted on Facebook today, and I thought it was very sweet.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. So my arms are long enough for this without my readers. Okay, Heather said, the last few days have been filled with emotions I don't quite know how to describe. Justice has and will be served, but there are no feelings of happiness or celebration. A sense of relief, but also a void. Pain and trauma have been such a presence in our lives for enough years now that to move forward feels unknowable, but it's time. I cannot adequately express my gratitude for law enforcement, the prosecution team, Judge Boyce, the jury, all involved in bringing us where we are today. Thank you. To all of those who have sent messages of love and support from around the world, thank you. Your kindness has been needed and appreciated. I've attached a picture of lavender flowers and a butterfly glowing in the light of a sunrise. These are some of the most beautiful gifts given to us by our Mother Earth. They represent healing, recovery, transformation, and new beginnings. These gifts are what I choose to focus on now. I want to live my life to the fullest in gratitude for the lessons I've learned, for the amazing friendships that have come into my life, and for a renewed desire to share love and hope with others who are damaged and hurting. JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, justice is yours. Justice is ours. It will happen for Charles as well. So many miss you. So many love you. There will never be answers as to why, but now is the time to move forward and time to heal. I just thought that was beautiful and perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
Heather Daybell's a badass.
Yeah.
Really appreciate her, and you know, everything that she's done to try to bring this to light, and to be willing as a family member to speak up, because that's not an easy thing.
And next week we are going to send her a note from the squad and the sheet of pot stirrer stickers.
Yes, we are.
Let her know how much we have all appreciated her voice. Yeah.
Most definitely. Thank you, Teresa, for the super chat. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. After this trial, I'm going to watch a classic trial like Phil Spector or Mark Jensen. Yeah, this trial was anything but standard in everything that's happened with it. Lori's was the same.
True. Yeah. Well, and at some point we'll be able to FOIA everything, and we'll have some things to share, but that'll be down the road. And we're learning that some of the things that we were hoping that could be FOIA'd won't be. Like, for example, the mitigation stuff will never, that's not FOIA-able. Nor are the jail calls, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Do we need a palate cleanse? Time for a cemetery tour? Maybe we need to do another one.
I was thinking that too, Eternity. A few years ago, we did a cemetery tour out towards Chalice, Idaho, and went to a whole bunch of like ghost town cemeteries and covered some of the crimes there and stuff, and it was super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, we might need to do something like that again.
Yeah.
A lot of you are saying that Pryor got a lot of publicity and he will probably make money out of this, and he probably will. Telling his story, Court TV will probably bring him on. There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
That I think will happen for him.
I think so
We've
too.
kind of always felt like that was part of why he stayed on this.
Oh,
is
yeah.
the notoriety would benefit him.
Well, and let's do a brief appreciation post for Pryor. I know he's pissed us all off and he has provided us endless comedy around here, but somebody has to represent the defendant, and Pryor did.
Right.
And he did the best he could with what he had, I guess. This whole mitigation thing, truly felt sorry for him because he was all geared up and ready to fight for somebody's life, and that somebody just slapped him straight in the face. So, I wouldn't hire him for my own attorney, for myself, but at the same time, somebody has to represent the defendant. Our criminal justice system would not work without that. So, for that, appreciation to Pryor for doing that job.
Most definitely. Yeah, he did have a very hard job. He did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
that with his skills and with what he was given by the defendant, he did the best he could.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Right, yeah, is he
Right.
gonna write a book? Lapidity.
Lapidity!
He'll
Lapidity
go
forever.
he'll go down in infamy for all of the mispronunciations.
The Bing Snow Queen says a 21 raccoon salute for Pryor.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
everybody needs a defense. It's true. It's how our system works. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the defense attorneys are frequently hated because they are, defending the person that we hate,
Yeah.
And so they definitely get the hardest and the worst rap. And because this was all much more public than they were used to. I mean, you consider back in Pryor's early days of law, none of this was on the internet. Fuck, there wasn't an internet,
Right.
And now
Right,
it's
things
in
have
front of
changed so
cameras and the
much.
whole world watches it and takes to the internet and critiques him. And I'm sure that's been tough to take. Yeah.
Well, and for all of them, I mean, these guys had not been through something like this before. They've not been
Mm-hmm.
through, live stream trials. Not the judge, the prosecutors, none of them. This is new, very new.
Mm-hmm.
And it has definitely been difficult for all of them to some extent, and they've had some
Mm-hmm.
threats and people acting like idiots.
Yeah.
I could send him my pearls as a memento. It's true.
It's true.
Prior, these have survived for you, but kind of funny.
Someone also said Zaluma.
Oh my god. Well, and just yesterday, remuneration over and over again for
Mm-hmm.
remuneration.
Mm-hmm. I guess we could send Pryor a T-shirt that says "Proud member of the Seven Gatherers."
But or you could say Dark Portals, class of 2024, taught by Melanie Gibb. Because I think that T-shirt is the only proof that class ever existed. So, how much is he allowed to share? Well, I mean, he still is
Not much.
held by attorney-client privilege, but he can certainly talk in generalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
High
Yeah.
society. Oh God, the high society thing that killed me too.
So we were in an LDS church today, right? Because we were at that funeral, and it was
Weirdly.
actually outside. Oh, you guys, okay.
Yeah.
We are inappropriate laughers. And we got put in a situation today. And we did maintain we were very respectful, but I was scared to death that somebody was going to slip. But so
yeah, you. That's who.
at that church, there was a funeral. Our gathering was outside in the yard, but there was also another funeral going on the inside. But there was no bathroom outside. So if you needed to use the restroom, you had to go in. And we had kind of been like, we don't want to. And they were like, there is a funeral in there. So, if you go in there, just be super quiet and respectful. And, of course. So we're going to just wait and go like shopping later and just go there. But we sat and visited for too long. So we had to go. We walk in the church just as they're getting ready to close the casket. And we're walking past. They always have the viewing in the Relief Society room. And so, like, we literally just walked right into it. Not in the room, but just, like, all these people in the hall. And it was very awkward and uncomfy. And I'm like, oh, my God, don't trip, don't talk, don't laugh, don't do anything.
Mhm.
And But I noticed these signs. So after we came out of the bathroom, they had already moved into the chapel, so it was all quiet and good. But I just don't trust me. I don't. But there was a sign for a Relief Society event that was a tea party, and they called it High
Which is-
Society.
They sure did.
High Society on the sign. I died laughing. I'm like, see,
Also,
John
I was really
right
laughing
all
about it
along.
being a tea party, guys, because when we were Mormon
Yeah.
kids, we were not allowed to drink tea, so they're having tea parties now. It's just one of those really constantly inconsistent things in the Mormon church.
Well,
Ugh.
yeah, most Mormons will drink herbal tea. And actually, the caffeine thing has kind of changed now, too. But anyway, High Society. Unfortunately, I felt like it would be disrespectful to pull out my phone and take a picture, but I really wanted to. So
It was
he knew
really
all
funny.
along. He knew all along.
High society, who
Mhm.
knew?
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am tired.
Yeah, it
And
has
I
been a
bet you
day.
are too. So take a couple of days to process. We're going to come back Monday night and we are going to just debrief the entire experience.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about some of our experiences. We'll bring some clips. And we want to hear from you guys. You know, what were things that were really powerful for you? What were things that were really difficult? All of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Things that you will never ever in your whole life forget, you know, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so,
Yep.
yeah, we're going to do that on Monday night. It'll be at 6 p.m. Mountain. That
Yeah.
At that point, too, we're going to have some other announcements for you about
Yeah.
what's coming up for us.
Because
And be able
believe
to
it or
share.
not, we typically cover 12 cases a week.
Yeah, you do. Haven't been for the last 8 weeks, but it's going to be
No.
time to get back
And-
in and start talking about everything else we're covering.
Well, and some of our pet cases have we've just really lost track of, like Delphi. Dear God, I don't even know if I can catch up. I'm going to do all
and
my
Michelle,
best.
Michelle Troconis, 14 and a half years.
14 and a
yesterday.
half years. Yes. Yes.
So we'll be talking about some of that stuff, trying kind of catching ourselves up and
Yeah.
gearing up for whatever's coming next.
Mhm. Oh, who won the verdict hours? I have the results. I don't have the names yet, but I'll have that tomorrow. I'll send out emails tomorrow. Yeah. But there were
Yes.
2 people that said 5 hours and 56 minutes. There was one person that said 5 hours and 50 minutes and one person that said 6 hours. Those are the ones that were the closest.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I will get with you guys tomorrow on that.
most definitely. So
Yeah.
as always, keep an eye on our channel, keep an eye on Discord and all of our socials, and we'll be updating you on what's going on. And we'll see you all on Monday night for a Daybell debrief.
Mhm. Get ready to
You
laugh.
got-
It'll be
Yeah,
good.
it's going to be fun. Bring a drink, whatever, unless
Mhm.
it's like morning at your house. I don't know.
Or
I
whatever.
know. Yeah, bring whatever you need. Bring orange juice, whatever. And if you want to support us, you can do that at truecrimesquad.com.
Mhm.
We did make an announcement in our Patreon that we did not get our May Patreons done, but we left you an IOU that we will do 4 instead of 2 in June. So never fear, we will still be back with all of that, and we appreciate your understanding.
Yeah.
We just ran out of juice, frankly.
I think you get it.
Yeah, I think you do.
Yep.
So, we are the True Crime Squad. Thanks for being here.
Take care.